Welcome back to the Deep Dive, everyone, especially our Cracking Chronicles crew. If you're new here, this is where we take interesting bookish stuff, source material, and really get into it. We look for those connections, those aha moments you might miss. And today, well, we've got something I think book lovers will really enjoy. Okay, so think about those stories that just pull you right in, where someone, unexpectedly steps through some kind of barrier into a totally different reality.
Like Narnia, yeah, the wardrobe.
Exactly, Narnia or Outlander with the Standing Stones. Those are classic portal fantasies. And today, we're doing a deep dive into one that gives that whole idea a really smart, interesting twist. It's called The Thinking Woman's Guide to Real Magic.
And the twist is, well, it ditches a lot of the usual stuff, right? Forget prophecies, forget destiny.
Totally. This one's really about intellect, about resilience, and it has this very distinct kind of feminist literary feel to it.
Yeah, what's really cool is how it kind of flips some of those familiar fantasy tropes. We meet Nora Fisher. She's, 29, an English grad student.
Right, and picture this. She's completely buried in dissertation stress, just gone through a breakup. It's a very relatable academic life stuff,
Absolutely. So she's not some hero marked by ancient magic from birth or anything. Her world is very grounded in those, everyday academic struggles.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No hidden magical lineage waiting to pop out. And this is where it gets really fascinating, how she actually gets into this other world.
It's almost random, isn't it?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
She's at a friend's wedding weekend, goes for a walk, ends up in a graveyard, reads a poem out loud, and bam, a portal opens.
Just like that.
Yeah. And she has zero inherent power, no special skills ready to go. She's basically just an unprepared tourist in this completely alien land.
So her survival isn't written in the stars.
Not at all. It's going to come down to her wits, her mind, her inner strength.
And that immediately sets it apart, I think. The driving force isn't some magical gift she didn't know she had. It's her ability to, watch and learn and figure things out in these totally new situations.
We see that pretty early on, don't we, when she meets Alyssa?
Ah, yes. Alyssa and the Faitoren, these beings who wield illusions.
Yeah, and Alyssa uses this power to basically give Nora a magical makeover, makes her stunningly beautiful.
And then gets her engaged to her son, Racklin. It looks like this perfect, almost fairy tale romance at first. Too good to be true, maybe?
Oh, absolutely. The way the outline describes it, it's this instant transformation, whirlwind engagement. Very seductive.
But that's where the thinking woman part comes in, right? That shiny surface starts to crack.
It does. Nora starts noticing things aren't quite right. She begins to realize Alyssa and Racklin are the Faitoren, that they're manipulating everything with these illusions.
And it's not like a gentle, dawning realization either. There's a pretty violent confrontation mentioned, isn't there?
Yeah, it forces her to escape. It gets dangerous fast.
And what's the main tool she uses to get out of that mess?
Her brain, basically. Her intellect.
Exactly. She spots the inconsistencies, the little flaws in the illusions they're creating.
It makes you wonder, how much her academic training, that constant analysis, critical thinking, how much that helps her see through it all.
It's not magic that saves her initially. Not yet, anyway. It's that trained ability to question what she's being shown.
Which then pushes her to find Aruendiel.
The reclusive magician, yeah. She figures out she needs real knowledge, genuine understanding, not just more pretty lies.
Which brings us back to Nora herself as this, I think, incredibly relatable, modern kind of heroine. I mean, think about it. She starts off already burned out from her dissertation.
Yeah.
And I think, for a lot of you listening, especially if you've been through higher ed, that feeling is so familiar. Being overwhelmed, feeling like your own intelligence isn't quite cutting it.
That feeling of inadequacy, despite, being smart and capable. Imposter syndrome.
Exactly. She's dealing with that before she even steps through the portal into a world where literal magic exists.
And that initial vulnerability, it really resonates, doesn't it? It makes you ask that question. Why do so many bright people, especially women sometimes, struggle with that feeling of being a fraud? So Nora's journey in this magical world, it becomes partly about rebuilding her sense of self, her confidence. But the challenges she faces, even though they're magical, still demand those core intellectual strengths she already had.
It's like the internal struggle doesn't just disappear when the external world changes dramatically.
Maybe it's something smart people just carry with them,
Could be. And speaking of external challenges, let's talk a bit more about the Faitoren.
Okay.
Because it presents them as more than just standard fantasy baddies.
They feel quite metaphorical, don't they? Like they stand for something more contemporary.
Yeah, I got that too. Like a really potent metaphor for toxic beauty standards and those really manipulative, narcissistic relationship dynamics we talk about a lot now.
And Alyssa herself is such a focal point for that. Line kind of paints her as embodying that. What's the phrase people use? That gaslight, gatekeep, girl boss idea?
Oh yeah, but in the absolute worst way.
Totally. Using her beauty, her charm, her power not to help anyone, but purely to manipulate and control. It's all about maintaining her own position.
It's like she uses this veneer of superiority to undermine Nora while keeping her own power and secrets locked down tight.
It really makes you think of those classic, chilling fairy tale villains, doesn't it?
It does. I was thinking, like the Snow Queen. All that cold, breathtaking beauty that's actually dangerous.
Or maybe even Circe from Greek mythology, the enchantress who lures people in with charm and deception.
Exactly. That power to bewitch, to make things seem wonderful when they're actually a trap. Alyssa has that same kind of insidious vibe.
Drawing Nora in with this promise of beauty, of belonging.
Yeah, like that lavish part. It's all a setup, a way to ensnare her.
And all that illusion and manipulation sets up a really stark contrast with the other kind of power in this world, the real magic.
Ah, yes, the magic taught by Aruendiel.
Is not the whimsical, easy kind of magic you sometimes see.
No sparkles here.
Definitely not. It's described as hard, dangerous, and deeply connected to nature and language.
Which makes you think, right, about the difference between that superficial Faitoren glamour and something deeper.
Right.
More fundamental, like understanding how things actually work.
Exactly. So yeah, forget the instant spells and easy fixes. Aruendiel's approach, it sounds like it stresses discipline.
And understanding the kind of core elements of this world, like the building blocks of its reality. That's the foundation.
It's not about just being born gifted. It's about serious study, real effort, dedicated work.
There's a few key parts of his teaching. There's definitely a science aspect to it, understanding the rules, the principles of this magical world.
Yeah, the underlying laws. And then there's humility, respecting the power you're dealing with and respecting the often slow, painstaking process of learning it.
And ultimately, it's about wisdom that's earned, not just given. Magic is a skill you develop through sheer hard work.
Kind of like mastering a really tough academic subject, ironically, which echoes Nora's earlier struggles, doesn't it?
It really does. And we even see her doing things like learning the actual language and customs of this place.
And translating Pride and Prejudice, which is such a fascinating detail.
Isn't it? Activities that aren't just about learning spells, but about really understanding this new world and deepening her connection with Aruendiel too.
And this whole intense learning curve, it doesn't happen in some quiet library tower either.
No way.
Yeah.
There's that journey to Semmer. There are rising political tensions with the Faitoren.
Right, and Alyssa's kidnapping plot hanging over them. It's learning under pressure.
A real trial by fire, and her having to escape with help from an ice demon.
Yeah, and rescuing Aruendiel, leading up to a battle where they managed to disrupt the Faitoren's immediate plans.
So it's not just theory. It's applying this difficult, hard-won knowledge in incredibly high-stakes situations, even within this magical setting.
Yeah, definitely.
Totally. And what's really cool and what we want to dig into is how Pride and Prejudice, a book so many of us know and love, becomes this like unexpected bridge. It ends up being key to this really compelling and, yeah, very bookish relationship.
Exactly. It's not just background reading for Nora. It becomes this profound link. It connects these two characters from completely different realities. It fosters something really genuine between them.
Okay, let's get into it. So Nora, we first meet her, and things aren't great, right? She's bogged down with her dissertation, dealing with a breakup. Pretty relatable, actually.
Yeah, very relatable. And then she's thrust into this magical world and encounters the Faitoren. These are beings who are masters of illusion, of manipulation, Alyssa and Racklin. It's quite unsettling for her. And after that experience, Pride and Prejudice, it sort of shifts for her.
How so?
Well, it stops being just a favorite book. It becomes almost like an anchor, a tether back to her old life, to her intellectual self. It represents the kind of, grounded reality and authentic values she's trying to reclaim after dealing with all that magical deception.
A reminder of who she was or who she wants to be again.
And it doesn't just stay as comfort reading, does it? Because then she does something pretty bold.
She does. This is where it gets really interesting, I think. Nora decides to translate Pride and Prejudice.
Translate it
So,
into the language of this other world.
Yes, into Aruendiel's language. Think about what that really means. It's not just swapping words. She's trying to convey the nuances, the social commentary, the irony, basically the entire cultural context of Austen's world to someone completely outside of it.
That's incredibly personal.
It is. It's an act of profound sharing. It shows a huge amount of vulnerability and, importantly, trust, especially considering who she's sharing it with.
Right, because Aruendiel, he's not exactly welcoming with open arms, is he?
Not at all. He's, well, grumpy is a fair word. He's ancient, seen it all, very emotionally reserved, definitely not your typical fantasy love interest. So for Nora to offer this piece of her world, her mind, to him,
it says a lot about the kind of connection she's seeking. It's deeper than the magic, deeper than the circumstances. She's trying to reach the person, you know?
And he respects knowledge, right? But emotions are trickier for him.
Very much so. He values intellect, but feelings are kept, very guarded. So this gift, this translation, it's Nora saying, here's something important from my world, see me. It's a bid for genuine understanding.
Okay, you called Aruendiel grumpy and reserved, not the usual type. Really fascinating line between him and Mr. Darcy?
Yes, it's fantastic comparison, actually.
Tell us more. How does this ancient magical being echo Darcy?
Well, if you look at the core traits, it's quite striking. Both are incredibly intelligent. Both have this significant pride, which can easily come across as arrogance or just being aloof.
Okay, I see that.
And they're both really slow to open up, to show their real feelings. Aruendiel has his ancient past, his tragedies. Darcy has his own burdens and sense of responsibility. And crucially, both characters have this deep underlying moral code. Maybe a bit rigid sometimes, but strong.
And they respect strong women.
Yeah.
Even if they don't show it well initially.
Exactly. A quiet, sometimes grudging respect for women who challenge them intellectually, who aren't easily intimidated.
Which Nora definitely does. Just like Elizabeth Bennet pushes back against Darcy's assumptions and, well, there's Pride and Prejudice.
Precisely. Nora challenges Aruendiel. She questions him ethically sometimes. She doesn't just accept his ancient wisdom or his sometimes difficult manner. She engages him.
So this dynamic, it's not love at first sight, not even close.
No, it's much more complex. And this is where the parallel to Elizabeth and Darcy gets even stronger, I think. Their relationship development mirrors that classic arc. You have the initial judgments, potential misunderstandings leading to rejection.
Mutual stubbornness.
Oh, definitely. Lots of that. They both have to work through their own assumptions and preconceived notions about each other.
So the connection that builds between them, it's not based on, like, a spell or some instant magical bond.
Not at all. Our sources really emphasize this. The bond grows out of intellectual sparring, gradual understanding, and eventually mutual respect. It's earned, you know, through genuine communication, through seeing past those first impressions, even with these huge differences between their worlds.
Which feels so much more rewarding as a reader, I think.
Agreed. And that brings us to this really clever meta-narrative element.
Ah, right. The story within the story.
Kind of. It's not just that Pride and Prejudice is in the book. The actual emotional journey Nora and Aruendiel go on, it echoes Elizabeth and Darcy's. Think about it. Those bad first impressions, the moments where miscommunication nearly wrecks everything, the slow peeling away of pride, of prejudice.
To find something real underneath.
Exactly. It's like the structure of their relationship is reflecting the themes of the very book that connects them. It adds this wonderful layer.
That's brilliant. So the book isn't just a plot device. It's like a thematic map for their own relationship. Love that. Okay, so The Thinking Woman's Guide ends with Nora back in our world, right? But she really wants to go back to Aruendiel's.
Yes, there's a clear sense of unfinished business, a longing to return.
And exciting news for everyone watching, there is a sequel. It exists.
Good news indeed.
So based on how book one ends, in this P&P connection, what do you think the sequel might explore for Nora and Aruendiel?
Well, her desire to return is so strong, it seems almost certain the sequel has to deal with that. How does she get back? What are the consequences? And their relationship, built on this unusual foundation, how does it evolve now? They have to navigate bridging these two very different realities, different cultures, expectations. That's huge.
Yeah, the challenges seem immense.
Plus, let's not forget the Faitoren. They weren't exactly defeated permanently, were they? They escaped.
Oh, right, the manipulative illusionists.
They could easily return as antagonists, creating new problems, forcing Nora and Aruendiel to maybe rely on each other even more. You know, it makes you wonder how those Austen themes, social pressures, overcoming prejudice, slow burn affection, might play out on this bigger cross-world stage. Lots of potential there.
Definitely sounds like more of that mix of bookish warmth and magical adventure,
Hmm.
and hopefully getting deeper into that connection sparked by P&P.
I think what this whole thing really shows, what's so fascinating, is how a book, something tangible and familiar to us, can become this incredible, unexpected bridge. Pride and Prejudice becomes the common ground, the catalyst for intellectual connection and real emotional understanding between Nora and Aruendiel, despite everything separating them. It really speaks to the power of story.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, bringing it all home for you, our fantastic BookTube audience here on Cracking Chronicles, maybe the takeaway is this. In a world, or worlds, full of illusions, magical or just, emotional ones, sometimes the most real magic is knowing yourself. And maybe the power that comes from sharing a story. Thank you so much for joining this deep dive with us today, right here on the Cracking Chronicles YouTube channel.
Yeah, thanks everyone. If you enjoyed digging into this with us, exploring these connections, definitely give the video a thumbs up, and please subscribe to the Cracking Chronicles channel. We'll have more bookish deep dives like this coming your way.